Bereshith. 3 words in English, summarized in one Hebrew word. Bereshith. This is the Paleo writing of that word. In the ancient Hebrew, with a Paleo or a pictorial system, every letter had meaning. It was concrete meaning to words determined by the letters and the images that they had. So you would have a tent, or a house or a floor plan, and the head, or the top, or a chief. A strong leader. In ancient times, strong leaders often were determined by having the horns on their head. This word means strong leader or chief. This letter would be in front of or to consume. And there's more to each of these letters. This letter would be an outstretched hand. It means to do, make, or work. And then the final letter would be a strong indicator. So in the first word, bereshith, in the beginning, there's already the story of the strong leader, or the head of the tent, going forth and in front, outstretching their hand with a strong indicator or a marker. Be, so bet, resh, aleph, shin, yud, tav are the Hebrew letters. Bet as a house, resh as a head, aleph as a strong leader, shin to be in front of or to consume, yud an outstretched hand doing or making or working, and tav a strong indicator or a marker. Bereshith. In English, we often translate Bereshith to Genesis. This is also the name of the first book of the Torah, of the Tanakh, of the Bible. Bereshith, in the beginning. So this first letter, bet, literally just is the word in. When it's tagged in front of other words, it means to go in as a word now, not just as a letter. In. Now, if you were to take these 2 letters, they spell the word bar. Bar means sun. In the sun. If you take these 3 letters, it's also the next word of the passage, because the Bible tells us bereshith bara Elohim, in the beginning God created. So bara is create. Bara. I argue that this not only showcases and evidences John 1:1, but is truly the story of all creation. All things are created in the Son. In the beginning, bereshith, in the beginning, was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Bereshith. So we have be in, bar in the sun, bara in the sun, created. Asit, if I take the aleph in there too. We'll next see this word when it comes to what often is called the proto-evangelion, the proto-evangelist message, the first message many read as the messianic prophecy that Christ will come and crush the head of the serpent. Asit is the Hebrew word. And asit means to place. When we hear it in that passage, it's going to say, I will place enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. Asit. If you were to just take the sit, this is a word for a garment. A garment, or to dress. So now we're getting a story of in the sun all things are created. And it's going to end with some sort of a placing or a dressing in the middle here. Aleph Vishin. Aleph Vishin. It spells the Hebrew word esh. Esh is the word for fire. The placement there is wonderful because although we often work linear in the Western world, we work from one direction to another. Very often in Hebraic thought, in the thought of the writers of the Bible and the poets of the Bible, instead of working only from one direction to the other direction, they would do chiastic or chiasm thought. And this chiastic thought takes the first and the last, and then the second, and the second to last, and then the third and third to last to work its way in. And then you have some message in the middle, and here the message in the middle seems to be some important message about fire. So, if we were to take the first letter and the last letter in chiastic thought, the first and the last would spell bat. Bat is a daughter. And the first and last. Now, if we were to take the first two and the last two, bar, bet, resh, yud, and tav, we would have to spell berith. Berith is the word for covenant. Berith. So literally, the outside of the chiastic structure would be inviting a daughter, and then the next level of that chiastic sandwich of the word, the first two letters and the last two letters, would be talking about the daughter of the covenant. And then inside of that, there would be this word, ish. Excuse me. And there would be this word, esh. Esh is fire. So in the middle of the covenant, there's some semblance of fire, or strong, consuming, or strength in front of us. Well, I drew in John 1:1 earlier to say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And now I want to draw on the imagery of Pentecost. Because in Pentecost, the fire comes and descends upon the new believers to represent the Spirit of Christ, the Spirit of the Son, coming upon them and empowering them in the new covenant in the Son. In his work of his, when he came as the strong one, the Son, right? When he came as the Son, the strong one, and he placed, right, himself before us to crush the head of the serpent, right? And they removed his garment, and he outstretched his arms on his covenant marker, his strong indicator, Right? When he did that, then he ascends into heaven, but he tells those who are waiting, those who he's invited to be sons and daughters, into the house of God. Okay, he tells them, he says, "Wait, for I will be sending my helper." And he tells them to wait in Jerusalem for the helper to come. And the helper then finally comes on Pentecost in the form of Esh, tongues of fire, descending upon them, to seal the berith, to seal the new covenant, to fill his disciples with the Spirit so that they could go to the corners of the earth to share the message. I argue that in the Son all things were created. I argue that one of the things that was created was a promise of a covenant that would be sealed by fire to bring daughters into that covenant, sons and daughters into that covenant, that they would be dressed in a new righteousness through the outstretched arm of the Son and the strong leader who would be consumed before them with his outstretched arms. I would argue that bereshith, in the beginning, we were already told the story, the entire story, the whole meta-narrative of Scripture was already showed to us. And that it wasn't just in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, but in the beginning was the Word. And it was pointing towards and prophesying the Son who was to come, to invite us into ultimate fulfillment of all of the Torah, of all of the Nevi'im and the Ketuvim. I argue that that Son, the firstborn of all creation, is the very one who fulfills every letter of every word of the entirety of Scripture, because he himself is the Word.